It's the Montessori Power Hour. I'm David Hargis.
And I'm Aubrey Hargis. And today we are celebrating our universal love of backpacks. Yes, even homeschoolers need backpacks. We will go into why and how and all those little nitty-gritty details. And we're also taking a closer look at the first great lesson from our theme packet, Stellar.
That's right, with an extension. So for all of you watching who are already a member of our community, you're going to want to stick around to see that awesome extension.
Yeah, we're going to share the story of the universe, sequencing cards, which is a really cool way to give the first great lesson if you've never given it, and to extend it if you've already given it.
That's right.
But first, let's talk about backpacks.
I know. Now, this may seem like a surprising topic for homeschooling, but actually, I was just looking, I was reading the paper, so to speak, digitally, and I saw that in October, the founder of JanSport, whose name was Murray McCrory, he passed away. He was 80. Now, he was an avid outdoorsman, and he and his wife had created a famous company, JanSport. And it's named after Jan, his girlfriend now, and then wife.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, isn't that right? So when they started out, they were making a variety of outdoorsy equipment, like snowshoes and sleeping bags. But then, in the early 70s, while they were students, they had an idea, and that was that it was really miserable carrying around books. Because I think in that time, maybe you would strap them together, tie them together, or lug them just under your arm. And he thought maybe there's a better way. And so he took one of his backpacks, a hiking bag, which didn't have any structure, very kind of lightweight and soft. And he added a few little things to it, like a reinforced bottom and some zippers and stuff like that. And voila, he invented the backpack. It was a huge hit on the University of Washington campus where they were at school. And then within a decade, the JanSport style backpack was synonymous with school. So, and so much so that I can't even imagine school without backpacks.
So that happened pretty quickly.
It did.
Just within 10 years, no kids really had backpacks. I wonder what were they using? They would just have like satchels or something.
They had
right?
satchels, or you would see, sometimes you see old photos or pictures, like the books would be stacked up and then tied together essentially with like straps.
With string or
or you might have like a briefcase type thing. You see like old Peanuts cartoons, like carrying around briefcases. That was what they had. But his innovation really took the world by storm, as you could imagine why. Like, it's so much more convenient to wear the bag
It's
on
not
your back.
just more convenient, it's supremely more comfortable.
Well, that is correct. So now, of course, the backpack is such a symbol of school that even our own homeschool children were desperate to get their hands on their own backpack, right? They don't really have a functional need for a backpack, or they didn't then.
Well, I would argue that they do, but
they wanted it anyway because they could not avoid seeing depictions of backpacks in school. And, it was a part of going to school. So do homeschoolers need backpacks? You already kind of gave us a little bit of a hint. The answer is yes. So why is that? Why would backpacks be a part of a homeschooling life?
You always end with this big question. Okay, but what I wanted to say... We'll talk about that. What I want to say is that as you were talking, it reminded me of all the storybooks that our children were reading, where they were seeing all these images of children with backpacks.
Yes.
And just the fact that we were at playgrounds, we were just like going to playgrounds, and we would inevitably see lots of kids coming home from school maybe. But I guess, you said like our kids wanted to be like the kids at school, but I am kind of like, I want to argue against that. Like, I'm not sure that when their love of backpacks began, it began because they had an awareness of school. I think it began way before that.
Okay.
So first off, I love backpacks. And I very quickly changed from a diaper bag style to a backpack style because I realized it's just more comfortable for me as a mom with little babies and toddlers. Be wearing one of the baby, wearing a baby in the front and a backpack on the back. It just made sense as a, compared to trying to wear the baby in the front and then like hoist some kind of diaper bag around. Like, it just made more physiological sense. And so I think that they were used to seeing me with a backpack on.
Yeah.
And as Montessorians, we know that when our children see us doing something, they want to do it too. And
That's true.
am willing to bet that I'm not the only parent who made that discovery that a backpack is actually more convenient for us as parents to carry around.
That's right. Now, I know
do you remember the little what?
We've got a pretty good group out there. If you are having your own memories of backpacks, I'd like you to be fomenting those, sharing those, whatever, as Aubrey is saying, like the utility of the backpack, even for the new mother. Go ahead. Sorry.
Or father.
Or father.
I was going to say, do you remember the little orange backpack that we used to carry?
Yeah, we got it at the Texas State Fair.
We did.
And we carried it for years and years.
I liked it because it was small. It didn't feel overwhelming, like a great big thing to carry. And we had it before we had kids. And we used to just carry it with us everywhere. And so our kids kind of grew up, I think, with us bringing the little orange backpack everywhere until it finally died. I mean, it took years for that thing to die. It was so well made. And then I remember we went back to the state fair to see if we could find more of them. And I don't think we could. I think they had stopped making them or something. We're so disappointed because
one-time opportunity.
It was the perfect little backpack. It fit both of us. And as you can see, that's kind of a hard requirement, like for a backpack to fit both a small shouldered person and a large shouldered person. But it did. So our kids grew up. Like one of us would wear the backpack, the other would carry a kid or two. And we would set off on our little adventures. And so our kids saw us bringing backpack culture with us that we probably had learned to rely on as a result of our school experiences.
Yeah. Well, certainly backpacks have become synonymous with like everyday life.
Yeah.
And even more so now. But for sure, yeah, like growing up in the 80s, in going to school, traditional school, you had a backpack.
And they were JanSports.
And they were some variation on a JanSport. Now, I will say, I think you're right. Like the child sees the mother and the father doing certain things and wants to do it. But I also am certain that you cannot have grown up reading books with picture books or watching TV or anything. They always depict backpacks.
Yeah, cartoons too. I was thinking.
For sure, they depict
I don't know,
school in backpacks.
Olivia probably had a backpack, and Magic School Bus Kids definitely had lots of backpacks.
Yes.
So there's lots of cultural vibes going on. But if we talk practically about why homeschoolers need backpacks,
because they're not carrying their books to the locker.
Aside from the fact that like parents are bringing backpacks everywhere, the reason our kids wanted backpacks so much was because they wanted to like participate in the culture.
That's right.
And so they were very excited to pick out their own backpacks, and they have continued a love of backpacks. I don't know that we've ever really totally worn out our kids' backpacks. We just keep piling them in the closet, but they just acquire new ones and we trade around. We're always bringing backpacks somewhere with us. We probably got like 7 or 8 backpacks in the closet.
You really do love backpacks. You're always like, well, where's the backpack?
Me?
Yes.
Yeah, I will tell you, I love them especially because I just hate the way a single strap cuts into my shoulder, and I just love the feel of like that balanced weight. It's just much better for kids too, when they're carrying things around. I personally don't know if modern children, maybe some of you who have been school parents can answer this. I don't know if little kids are still carrying around big, heavy textbooks anymore.
Yeah, I think it probably depends on the school and the situation.
Because
right?
things have evolved so much.
Well, and there became
digitally.
a big push against, the big, heavy backpack and it being bad for kids and so forth. But certainly, I think as I see out in the world, students have backpacks, and so do adults. And what do they put in those backpacks? Well, Jessie shares, she says that her 2.5-year-old loves packing toys and snacks in her very own backpack. Now that strikes me as familiar. What do you remember using in our homeschooler backpacks, our little guys?
Okay, so we would pack in them, food for sure.
Yeah.
Like the snacks, definitely 100%. They would want little snacks in their backpacks.
Yeah.
And Right now, I don't know. Back in the day, I had made little reusable snack bags for
Yes,
them.
I remember
And the kids and I picked them out. So one of them had little puppies on it, and one had butterflies, I think.
It was fabric. It was like a colorful childlike fabric, and then it had like a waxy.
It actually
right?
was PUL fabric.
Yeah.
Which you can go and read up and decide yourself whether you want to put food in that or not. But my research said it's probably fine as long as it's just like regular snack stuff. You're washing it regularly. But it was actually made for the diaper wearing community. So it was like diaper, because it was coated with a layer of plastic that was non-water permeable. I chose that fabric.
Yeah,
to
so you could put the grapes in, and they wouldn't get everything wet.
Exactly. So I actually sewed them. I didn't sew them in a fancy way so that they like had.
Nope, it was just sacks.
Yeah, they were just little sacks, and we would put a clothespin on them, and they finally have worn out. We took those things with us everywhere, but we would. The kids were really into it. Like they loved the really cute reusable bags that we used, and of course now we don't have those bags anymore, and I have not made any new ones. So we are using the silicone-based kind of flexible reusable bags instead of the disposable Ziploc style bags, which feels great. You know, our kids still like picking out the colors that they're going to put their snacks in. Sure. But yeah, so we would always have snacks in every person's backpack, and it made our children feel very empowered to have their own snack, and I would have my own snack. And then also we usually put in them, and this was my tucking, was like a composition notebook for each kid with their name on it. And it was and some colored pencils inside each kid's backpack. Because colored pencils, we really like those in Montessori for detailed drawing, and maybe just like a regular pencil or a pen. And then we would take those little notebooks into the world, and if we went to a museum or we went to
the park,
or
whatever,
something, then the kids would have their little composition notebook, and they would get them out, and I would model for them. So I would have, my backpack would be packed the exact same way that the kids were packed, because I wanted to model for them how to use your backpack as a tool for the organizing your stuff. And I think you made the point when we had this conversation earlier that a backpack is almost like a portable shelf.
Well, that's exactly how I feel like we used it at home. I mean, there was the backpack as you would carry it out into the world with the snacks and the colored pencils, maybe a stuffy, things like that.
Yeah.
But then there was really also the backpack.
Oh, yeah, the stuffies definitely came in there.
For sure. But then there was also the backpack at home, and it was more like a mobile shelf in a way. Like you put your things in it to keep. This is where your notebook goes that we're doing our math together, or our art journal, or whatever, a book that we're reading. And it becomes almost like a little bit of like a bookshelf almost. And you can take it with you, but a lot of times it might just sit. And what was great about that is it let the kids really feel like they were really using the backpack in the way that their imaginations led them to think. How do kids in a traditional school use their backpack? Well, they take it to school and there's learning things in there. And so they had sort of an approximate experience with that. It also was just super convenient. We've almost always lived in pretty small places because just by the nature of the kind of the places where we live.
Cities.
Cities. Yeah, coastal cities. They tend to be like small places is what you wind up in. And so room is a premium, and having like a little room of requirement, so to speak, backpack style was really helpful.
That's true. Yeah, it is true. I don't know. I love them. I think that they're great. And we used to keep, when the kids were little, we would have a little dressing piece of equipment that I bought. It was actually a dress-up center piece of wooden structure with little hooks on it. I don't know what those are called, like little dress-up corner made for kindergartens. And I put that by our front door, and we would hang our coats and our backpacks on it so that it was like, I think they call it like a hot pad or a launch pad or a hotspot or something. Like you've never heard that. Okay. Well, it's an organizing term. Okay. Like you put your things by the front door ready to go, and it's like your launch pad where everything that you need is there, and all you have to do is grab it and go. And I know you don't have one. Well, actually you do have one. you keep your wallet and your keys and your watch and your baseball hat and
sunglasses,
all in the same spot right next to the TV.
Yes.
And that is your launch pad.
The treasure chest.
And there's a treasure chest there. Yeah, you keep. Yeah.
Yes, that's right.
Maybe you keep it in the treasure chest sometimes.
Well, I used to, but yes.
But
That's a good point.
To overflow.
Now that we had to replace that.
But yeah, that's the same
chest
concept.
is gone, so now they're sort of free roaming keys.
I know.
And
it's
you're right.
Driving me crazy.
Yes. So that's a great point. Like, so I don't know that a backpack is the right thing, but certainly like a home base, a launch pad, whatever you want to call it.
Well, it's not for you.
No, but
you don't carry a backpack, but mine is my purse, and I have a little hook by the door, and I hang my purse on it, and my keys go there.
No, but the point isn't that I don't have a backpack; it's that I need a home base.
Yeah.
And your kids do too. So we get this question a lot, like, how should we do graduation celebrations for homeschooling? Should we do first day back to school ceremonies or parties or things like school things as homeschoolers? And I think in general we would say yes, it's fun to participate in the culture. If it's interesting to your children, let them do it. It gives them a common experience that they can relate, even though they might be homeschooling. It's in a sense saying it's just a variation on one of the ways that we can school or learn. So I think it's great. And having a backpack as a home base, whether you take it out or not, goes along with that. They are also super fun for littles, right? Because that innovation that he came up with when he turned the hiking backpack into a school backpack, was he added snaps and zippers and all kinds of things like that, which if you have, and I know just like Jessie was saying here, she has a 2.5-year-old.
That is total
practical life city,
yeah.
right? So backpacks are also awesome ways to do practical life lessons.
Yes, there's so many of these practical life lessons I think that could actually be used with the backpack or assisted by a backpack. There's zipping and snapping, just all these little containers. It also makes me think backpacks could make a great mystery bag.
Oh, yeah.
Put some hidden things. In fact, in the practical life, in the primary curriculum, there's also opening and closing little containers and things. And that's always more fun if you put it in a container that has a bunch of zippers or snaps and things on it.
That's right.
And then you pull out the container that's inside, and then you have to open that container. It's almost like, our youngest is still obsessed with the idea of wrapping a box in a box and a box and a box and a box. So it's kind of the same thing.
Well, it makes me think about, you can go and buy like a dressing frame or something which can have zippers and snaps and things on it, right? Or you could maybe have a backpack. Yeah. And it kind of does the same thing, and it's super practical, and you can do all those other things. So hats off. Sorry, not hats off yet. Celebrating backpacks in the world. But you know what? I'm going to say hats off to the guy who invented the school backpack.
Okay.
Because what a lot of fun they've been.
Well, if you say hats off for the guy who invented the backpack, I'm going to say hats on for homeschooling.
Hats on for homeschooling.
And guess what? We did it again. We forgot our hats.
No, we didn't. They're right there.
You brought hats? That's usually my job. Oh, my gosh.
Are they in a backpack? No, they're not.
Aw. Okay. Well,
now you
we
can
have
pick.
Two men's style choices. So we have, the Big D hat.
The Big D. That's right.
I think I'm going to have to choose that one this time.
Big D, little A, double L-A-S. That spells Dallas, folks. This is our vintage LBJ style hat.
Captain's hat.
And this is my captain's hat.
Okay, so.
Now, I love this hat, and I know I've told you before about this hat, so go back and look at it. But it is a classic. It's an actual historically awesome hat. And it puts me in the mood to thinking about hats.
I was going to say, you should say thanks to your mom for both of these hats.
I should, because that's right. Actually, my mother bought both of these hats for different reasons.
She likes buying new hats.
She likes buying hats, and she has a good sense of hats. If you have a hat out there you love, we'd like to know about it. Tell us about your favorite hat. Now, for me, I think we should do hats on for homeschooling, because hats is, like thinking about backpacks, it's where we load up our stuff, right? You got your lunch in there, your books, your homework, pens. But you know what? We mentioned stuffies, we mentioned snacks.
Yes.
Backpacks are often also places where you stick things that make you feel comfortable or give you guidance, like pictures or stickers or, like I said, stuffies, things like that.
Yeah.
Now, as a homeschooling parent, we need our own pack of gear.
Okay.
And we're not going to just put books in this pack. We're going to put things that are going to make us ready emotionally, spiritually, mentally. So I am asking folks out there, get on your hats on for homeschooling hat. And I want you to think, what are we going to put in our backpack, metaphorical backpack, that's going to make us better, more prepared, more relaxed, more excited, homeschooling parents. So here's our pack. I'm going to unzip this now.
Okay. No, tell me what you find in there. I don't know what you find in there.
What shall we put in this pack? Now, again, the idea is that when we go out into the world as homeschooling parents, we don't have to just know the academic stuff. We have to have a lot of other mental, psychic, emotional, spiritual tools.
Yes.
And I'm going to load up my backpack. And one of the things I'm going to put in there that I know I've had to have as a homeschooling parent is hope.
Hope.
So here comes hope.
Yes.
This in here. I'm going to be able to draw from that later. Now, I put hope in there because, you know, whenever you teach, you're investing in the future. You have hope for what comes next, hope for something better, hope for your children,
Yes.
Hope for your society. So hope, and sometimes it gets hard. Like sometimes you feel like hope is a little thin, or you kind of lose hope, or it gets weak for whatever reason. Maybe you just start feeling like you're doing a good enough job, or it's just not going to work out. I'm going to reach in here. I'm going to grab a little bit of hope. All right. Now, what's something you would like to put in here?
I'm going to put some courage in there.
Ooh.
Yeah, a lot of courage, because thinking about the etymology of the word courage, it means to have a lot of heart, right? And to be strong and brave. And I think that as homeschoolers, because we're doing something that's a little less understood by society, there can be a lot of kind of intangible kind of worries out there about like what's going on and how do I do this, and so it really does take a lot of heart and some bravery to embrace this way of life.
Okay, I'm going to put something else in there, but first I want to ask, I know we have a pretty good group out there today. What would you put in your backpack? If you want to share that in the chat, we'd love to hear it.
Yes.
Okay, another thing I have to put in my backpack, because sometimes I need that resource to pull out, is excitement.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, so here comes my excitement. Because, you know, you have to have enthusiasm for teaching. And our belief is that everyone can teach, like it's a natural human skill. There certainly are things you can learn to become better at it. Like Montessori taught captured many of those principles and so forth. But the ability to teach and learn is innate to human beings. And we have to remember that. And it should really get us excited, because when it gets us excited, well, we go out and we do a better job. We have more fun. The kids feel that excitement. They feel the pleasure and the joy, and that gets them revved up. And that's the way that it works. So I don't always know that I can continue that excitement, because sometimes I get tired or sick or bored or nervous, or just over it. And I have stored some excitement in here, and now I'm going to be able to grab it. What's something else you would put in your pack?
I'm going to put some perseverance in there. Yes, a lot of perseverance, because homeschooling is a long game, right? And I think that sometimes we expect to do homeschooling for a few weeks or a few months and say, okay, now I'm ready to see the rewards of all of my efforts, which were immense in the last few months, and we actually don't see, you know, the fruits of our labor, and sometimes we can get kind of discouraged from that. And so if we have more, if I reach into my backpack and I pull out some perseverance during those moments where I'm not really sure if it has been worth it, I'm going to remember that actually it's the long game that I'm looking for. I'm looking for not the child that is here, but the child who will be in the future.
Yeah. Love it.
Yeah, I think that goes really well with hope.
All right. Well, I want to know what you guys would put in your backpack. Think about that for yourself.
Yes, and
Share
if you're in our
that.
community, we're going to post after this. We'll start a little post, and I hope that you
Hashtag homeschool backpack.
ask your children. Would love to hear what they have to say.
Oh, wait, we have one. Humor
Oh my gosh, that's
and
a great
some
one.
plasters.
And some what?
Plasters?
Some plasters.
Well, I like humor, which actually reminds me of somebody that it's due for a visit. It might be time for a visit from our very friend,
Oh, it is.
Mr. Rabbit. It's been a while. We didn't get to.
Mr. Bunny.
No, sorry, Mr. Bunny. We didn't. Mr. Bunny, we didn't see you last week. How dare you forget my name? Well, it's because I didn't see you for an entire 2-week period, and I guess I just forgot. Well, that's okay. Sometimes I forget things too, like my joke of the day. Oh no.
Oh.
Yes. Do you ever forget things?
No, and I think it happens to every one of us, Mr. Bunny.
Well, I sometimes feel embarrassed when I forget things, and then I don't really like to, share, because then I get, I feel extra nervous.
Oh, Mr. Bunny, I know exactly how you feel.
Yeah?
And I just want to remind you that we love you so
Aw.
much, and we would never make fun of you or judge you for that.
You wouldn't?
No.
Oh, would you? No, of course I wouldn't. I love you. In fact, I think that you are always very brave when you come out here and try and tell us a joke, even though you sometimes get nervous. In fact, it makes me extra proud that you are part of our little show.
I agree.
Oh, thank you. Well, I did bring a joke today, but I just don't know. No, I think you should do it. I think you should tell the
Yes,
joke.
tell us the joke.
Okay, well, okay. Yeah, do you know what type of planet I like to take when I go camping?
What kind of planet you like to take when you go camping?
Yeah.
No, I don't know.
Oh, of course, it's marshmallows.
Marshmallows. That was a good one, Mr. Bunny.
Thank you. And thank you to everyone out there. I hope to see you soon.
Bye-bye.
Well, thank you, Mr. Bunny. Always a delight to see him. Now, if you'd like to have more fun time like Mr. Bunny, we sure would like to welcome you over to Child of the Redwoods. Let's see, where's our thing? Here we go.
Yes, childoftheredwoods.com.
So you can find us online at childoftheredwoods.com, where you get all of the information, including about our 7-day free trial, where you can get access to the thing we're about to show you right now, which is the theme of the month being stellar. And if you love what you see, you can continue on, or you could even join us for the complete curriculum or the unlimited curriculum, which includes our full Montessori levels 1 to 6, which is ages 2 to 9 curriculum. So the full curriculum for primary and lower elementary, all comprehensively laid out for you in this card system and aligned to our theme of the month. So if you'd like to know more, again, head over to childoftheredwoods.com or email us at hello@childoftheredwoods.com, and we would love to see you there. Now,
yes, we should also, did you mention that friends who are brand new can try the curriculum for 7 days for free?
I did mention that, but I think it's worth mentioning again.
I think so.
That it's awesome. Like, you want to know what it's like, and that includes the community. So if you have been...
Which, just to make the point, that you would get a copy of all of Stellar, and you could try out our activities that we're going to feature today.
Yeah, well, that's right. The one that we're featuring today plus more. Also, you get into the community. So if you've been watching us and are curious about what it's like in the community itself and all the other kinds of live events we do and fun stuff we have, why don't you try it out in the for the 7 days? We'd love to see you there. Oh, we have some others. Jessie says she would put patience in her backpack.
Yeah.
And Yasmin thinks that plasters are Band-Aids.
Band-Aids.
Band-Aids, yes. That makes sense. I like that, plasters.
It's hilarious.
In German, they are called that word. Plasters. Plasters.
Plasters.
Now, for the record, I will let you know that my great-grandparents were German, but that was a long time ago.
Yes. You don't remember anyone saying
I didn't know them.
plasters.
You know,
Yes.
yeah, so
Okay,
it was a very long
yes,
time ago.
definitely put some plasters.
Yeah, for sure. If you got littles or bigs, it's good to carry some plasters, band-aids, whatever you want to call them. All right.
Well, friends, this month's theme is actually all about the wonders of the stars and planets. That's why we named it Stellar. And there's a little picture of people stargazing, maybe seeing some of the cosmos there. And we packed in a whole bunch of seriously fun lessons inside this theme pack. One of our highlights is actually a lesson called The Biggest Boom. And it is inspired by the very first great lesson in Montessori. So let's kind of journey through space a little bit, and we'll give you a little insight into the materials that we have created for The Biggest Boom. And you might be wondering or thinking, if there is a first great lesson, there's bound to be a second great lesson.
That's
Maybe
true.
a third great lesson.
Could be.
And so let's start actually by just a brief review of the great lessons.
Yeah, so the great lessons were created by Maria and Mario. I think they worked together on them, right? Her son Mario, and they basically cover these 5 critical events in the story of humankind, is how I would describe it. So the first one is the coming of the Earth and the universe. That's the one we're going to talk about today. The second great story is the coming of life, and it includes the timeline of life from the very earliest little proto-creatures all the way to us. The third focuses in on the coming of humans and our development on the Earth as a special being. The fourth covers literacy, so the invention of writing and reading and all the things that go with that. It's also called the ox and the
House. I know you wanted to say horse or cart or
bow or something. And the fifth one is about math. It's the story of math. And so what I love about this, so you have basically the Big Bang, the universe, then the development of life, biological entities of all types, and then specifically humans, and then humans creating the ability to record their thoughts and dreams and ideas, and then the last story traditionally being the invention of math and the way that we sort of conceptually. And it just is a beautiful way of tying our story as human beings all the way back to the very earliest moment, all the way down to the moment we have today. And you start telling these stories at about the age of 6 in the second plane. Now, if you have...
In the Montessori classroom.
In the Montessori classroom. If you have a kiddo who's under 6, you know, as we say many, many times, the child is like a cup. It will hold what it can hold. If you tell the story to your 4-year-old and they don't get it, they'll get out of it what they get out of it. So don't be afraid to do it. I know that we would tell these stories again and again, and that's how it's supposed to happen. You're supposed to tell these stories regularly, at least annually. And we would tell our older son these stories, and of course our younger son would be listening in, and he was not in that second plane yet, but he listened raptly every time, and it actually, like that cup metaphor, it filled it up, and as he got older and his cup got bigger, he could hold more information. These are just such beautiful stories, though. I mean, they really capture this whole flow of life, and they spark our imagination, which is a big part of what Montessori is about.
Well, the great lessons are meant to be retold again and again and again and again on purpose, probably in part because you're probably never going to tell it perfectly during one session. I mean, maybe if you practiced and practiced as a Montessori teacher would months before giving the lesson to a group of children, and you felt like that was your one shot for the whole year, I don't know, maybe you could give a perfect lesson if you had given it many times and you really practiced. But I guess I would say, like, as a homeschooler, it's not realistic to hold ourselves to that standard, and it's actually not necessary for children. And there might be some downsides to being overly practiced in your telling of the first great lesson. So sometimes if you're over-prepared and you overly orchestrate the lesson, the children will respond with being kind of suspicious of, like, what's going on here? Am I being tricked? Or, you know, why is this so...
Well, it just lacks life or something too, right? It can
Well, I mean, even if you're like, you're really good at it, Sometimes children just feel like, that you're trying to pull one over, right? I mean, they feel like, oh, you're going to trick me into some kind of learning, right? Like they are very sensitive to the way we relay information, especially as parents.
Yeah.
And whereas a teacher might be able to get away with being a little more prescriptive or on script, as parents, it's really important that we tell these lessons just like as genuinely and honestly and in a very normal way as possible, the way we would usually kind of relate to our children.
So the trick is to learn like the key points in the story and then weave them into your own tale rather than to like over practice and memorize the whole tale.
Or not even consider it like this big storytelling event. Just like sit down and just relay it in a normal conversation. And then do you know what happened after that? Well, a lot of people believe that this happened. Isn't that cool? Can you imagine that? Just like having a general low-key conversation. And so something that helps you to do that as a parent is to have some supports in place, some props, some idea of where you're going to go with this lesson, from start to end, kind of the general, things that are going to happen, to have an awareness of it, and to be able to lean on your props more so that you and your child can explore them together as a learning partnership rather than you presenting them with this great big thing that they feel like was so elaborate they're not really sure what to make of mom who has transformed herself into a different person for today, or dad. So let's just go ahead and show this biggest boom.
Yeah.
If we can do the top down.
Of course.
And then we'll show the resources that we have for you.
Yeah.
All right.
So again, the idea with the story is, we'll get this all straightened out.
It just wants to swivel.
It does.
Okay. There we go. All right, so here we are in Stellar, and we have our little planning cards here, and we actually introduced the biggest boom on week 1, but if you did not do it, it is not too late to jump in there, friends, if you're in our community.
Or you're just joining now.
Yeah, or if you're just joining now. You can do these in any order that you like. So a little overview of Stellar. We've got all kinds of little practical life activity. We've got parts of the solar system cards in there.
Yep.
The story of the universe is kind of a big one. Ooh, this is super fun. We have a visual discrimination activity. There's just lots. This is packed with lots of stuff, friends. Just to give a little overview, there's our parts of a solar system cards, 4-part card set. And then let's go right to the biggest boom. Here we go. So what we decided to do, because you can go online and you can find many retellings of the story of the universe in our lower elementary course. I even do a retelling for you. I have kind of scripted one out. But our friends still feel like they need those extra support. So here is one way that you could present the first grade lesson to your child, and it is through a sequencing activity that you share together. So let's take a look at some of the cards that go with that. So what you're going to need for this lesson is you're going to need these little sentences, because we've made this into a sequencing activity and it's also a reading activity.
That's right.
So if you were wondering in Montessori, how do you teach reading? It is actually through the nonfiction little cards that we give our kids. We have all kinds of cards. Sentences are one kind of card, and they can be developed for any subject area.
Yeah, and you're going to find 2 different types of reading activities in the same lesson. But this is our first part, is the little labels.
Yeah, the little sentences. And then also you'll need a copy of these individual cards. So you might notice this one is totally blank. There's nothing on this one. It's on purpose. This one just has a tiny little dot on it. This one says bang. Here's a picture of some volcanoes. Looks like they've got puddles in there.
Yeah.
and some galaxies. All right, so these are a combination of impressionistic charts, which is a classic lower elementary prop that you can use to tell the story. And there's also some in there that we have created ourselves to help you, kind of fill in the missing pieces in the story to tell it cohesively. All right, so these are the sequencing picture cards. And then we've also got these, this actual first story of the very first great lesson in scripted form. This is the scripted version that I wrote. And then took notes on myself when creating the lower elementary course. And so we've put it into a card format that you and your child can use with these sequencing cards, which is the impressionistic charts essentially, and some cards that also fill in with other impressions. All right, so these are the three things that you have that your child will be doing the work with on your workspace, on your rug. All right, and we made them these half pages size because the first great lesson is such a great big lesson. We felt like the impressionistic charts could use extra space, so this will be a big layout on your rugs. You might even need 2 rugs across in order to fit all of these cards. But the last thing that we offer, which is standard with a lot of our parts cards, and we decided to do specifically for the biggest boom lesson, is a control booklet. And this is important because otherwise these pictures actually are not numbered. How would you know where they go? Okay, so to check your work, you're going to need a control booklet. Do you want to share the control booklet and kind of talk about how to put it together, how it works?
Yep, so this is going to be, it's going to come printed double-sided. And then, it's pretty straightforward. You're just going to lay out in reverse order, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And then when you fold it, it will form the book.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, and so when you come over here, now you're going to go into 8 and 9, and the picture will line up. So if you're in our community or you've had our other theme packs, these are very similar. This is basically like a supersized version of the traditional parts cards, little control booklets that we put together. But like Aubrey said, the biggest boom deserves the biggest book.
Now we could have colored these for you and printed them in color, and
well, that would be no fun.
We specifically chose not to. We wanted to design these to be colored by you and your child, if your child desires to. So when you're printing and preparing your control booklet, if I were making this for the classroom or my home, I would go ahead and color it, because it's a control booklet, and then I might print an extra copy out for my child to go and color their own, so they would have their own copy of it.
And in our community, we've seen some really nice and fun examples of the kids and the parents coloring, watercoloring, painting, using different tools to sort of bring these pictures to life. In the traditional method, like, you would actually draw these yourself as you told the story. So you can even go the step beyond. I can imagine, we're not quite an extension, but really you could take each of these cards here. Oh, sorry, top down. You could take each of these cards and then draw your own version to go with, and that actually would be kind of the classic way. But we provide this control book with colorable pictures that you can walk through, and it helps bring the story to life. Now, the story starts with the nothingness.
It does. I wanted to bring the point real fast that this control booklet is cool because it incorporates all of these pieces into it.
Yes.
So you can check your work with all of this that you are using. It has the picture. So there's like the picture of the sun.
Yep, this is the Earth.
Okay,
the sun's beautiful daughter, I think, is the name of this chart.
And it also has the text, the sentence that goes with it down here. Our son was born. So if you were matching these together, you would be able to check your work. All right, and that's the awesome part about control booklets, which are used in the lower elementary classroom for a ton of works, and also can be used in the primary classroom. Right? So exactly. So there are these 3 pieces, which actually are not 3-part cards, but kind of essentially work they kind of function
They're
that
like a
way.
three-part card in a sense.
Kind of. And this control booklet will help you to check your work. So your child could do this work themselves and check their own work. And
Yeah, because
if
this
they were
control book, it's the control of error book.
Yeah.
It teaches you what to do. Okay.
Exactly. Okay, so beautiful. So what do we do first for this lesson is you're going to hold the Story of the Universe book. We're not going to go through the entire thing, but I just want to give our friends a little preview. We're going to put these pages away for later. Okay, we can do that later. And we'll put these little sentence cards away for later. I'm just going to get this kind of out of my way so our friends can see. So the first thing we would do is we're going to lay out these cards on our rug face down, kind of at random. Just put them face down.
This is a great big work. It's going to be very appealing, especially to the kids in that the second plane.
I don't know why
really
I'm turning them over.
Big work.
Actually
I guess you
face
wanted like
up.
an extra special surprise.
Yes. What was I thinking? Okay, so we're just going to kind of random. We're going to pretend we have a big rug here.
Which you're going to want. Again, you're going to want a great big space to tell a great big story.
Yeah.
That's going to be a lot of fun,
Now,
especially for that 6, 7
looking at this, I can already tell you that one of the greatest things about Montessori works is that it's a very effective way to teach visual discrimination, which children are developing, especially in their primary years. And so when we do this work, their eyes and brains are going to be required to very quickly look at all of these cards that are out, all of the pictures, make the distinctions between them, because some of them actually look a little bit similar. There are, like, for example, similarities would be like there's circles here, 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 here. Like I see a lot of circles all over, right? Planets. Okay, and so our eyes are trying to discriminate between the circles to find a particular page with circles. Also has a lot of like squiggly lines, that sort of thing. So our eyes are
very
like
busy.
Oh, and I noticed like there are lines here, there are lines here. That's actually no accident.
Oh, yeah, here too, right?
Here there are lines, yeah. So our eyes have to very quickly make sense of it and then pull the right card. So why don't you open up that Story of the Universe and read to us the very first page.
Long, long ago, there was nothing. Can you imagine nothing? It was not dark, nor was it light. There were no sofas or cuddly blankets. There was nothing. No refrigerators or cars or laptops. No soft little mewing kittens or playful puppies.
Aww.
There was nothing. No earth, no moon, no planets, no stars, no galaxies, no universe. There was nothing.
Nothing.
No sound at all, for there was nothing to make a sound.
Okay, and now in our scripted lesson, it says, as you finish the first part, you'll ask your child to find the picture card that shows nothing. Where is the card that shows nothing? And so now our eyes are looking for less stuff on here, right? And there are actually two cards that could be contenders. One just has a tiny little dot on it, and one literally has nothing on it. Now I think that this is super fun. I giggled so hard when I suggested making these cards. When I wrote this into the lesson, I was like, haha, this is hilarious. I mean, who has seen a Montessori card with literally nothing on it? Like, it's totally blank.
It was the easiest of all to illustrate, that's for sure.
I have never seen a Montessori. Maybe there are some old school Montessorians who have been around a long time who remember maybe a miscellaneous card set that was just completely blank. But this just tickled me so much. Like, there's literally nothing here. So what bigger impression could there be made for the child than to just see nothing?
Yeah, speaking of that 5th grade story too, and the coming of math and zero and all that too.
Oh yeah, that also would be a cool cool relationship. Okay, so in real life, we would take this picture and we would set it aside, in a place where we're going to be doing our sequencing.
Yeah, because you're going to make a sequence here.
Yeah, so ideally, all of these might be on a rug over here, and then maybe to incorporate a little movement in, maybe we have our sequencing rug a few feet away over on this side, and we're going to put this card on the top left hand side. And in our little illustrations, even if you were doing it all on one rug, you might have all of these at the bottom, and then you would start sequencing by putting this one at the top left side. All right. So then it would just continue that way. You would progress through, and once you had them all in order, let's just very quickly, for the sake of time, put the first few in order.
So we have nothing, and then we have a teeny tiny ball.
We have a teeny tiny ball.
And then we have
bang.
Bang. And then we have pew, 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 pew.
Right, all the particles banging into one another.
And then smash.
Yes, okay, great. So we'll just take those.
Sound effects are not optional, folks.
So let's imagine we have all of our cards in a long row. This is going to be a big impressionistic work on one or two or multiple rugs. And then we're going to match our sentences to them, which is just super fascinating. And you can do this even if your child isn't reading. You would do this and just read it to them. So we're going to do the same thing. We've got these, which are in order. And now we've got our little sentences, which are just going to be kind of scattered around out of order. And we're going to kind of do the same thing. This time, though, we're going to pick a sentence. So I'm going to pick one. Let's see. This one says, particles bounced all around. Can you find the picture or the impressionistic chart? The picture of particles that are bouncing all around.
Well, there's two.
They're exploding.
Yeah, this one has particles and they kind of move, but this one looks more like pew, 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 pew. I think that one.
So we're going to put this underneath this card. All right. Yep. And I can already see like the word there was nothing. It's going to go here.
Hydrogen and helium formed.
Yep. And then what is this one?
Oh, there's a teeny tiny ball.
There was a teeny tiny ball. The universe exploded into being. And so I'm just going to shift those over there for now so that we can just see what a beautiful layout this is. I mean, I really feel like in Stellar, this is a massive offering, friends. This is a lesson that could be given again and again in different ways and engaged with in different ways as well. I want to show one last thing is a little extension that you could do with this lesson. Oh, first of all, if I hadn't taken those away, you could see how you could easily get out your control booklet, and check your work, right?
Particles bounced all around. Now, what about the text card? Where does that go?
Oh, awesome. Yeah. So you can do the same thing with your entire storybook. So we would take these little sentences and put them away. And then we could match these. And with this one, I probably would be more inclined to make it a vertical work, which is kind of hard to show on this.
You get the idea.
But yeah. And I would probably make the layout more like this, where we see the picture card and the text. There's number 3. And we're going to do the same thing with these. We would mix these up, read them, and then match them. And these actually are numbered. Yep. So, your child could use that as a control of error if they wanted.
It's a little trickier because they're longer, more complicated sentences.
That's number 2. But you can see how the layout here is really pretty.
But I think if you wanted to make it even more challenging, you could just remove the number. But I don't know that it's necessary.
But we put the numbers there on purpose because we just wanted to give a little extra order to the sequencing, and also because reading these is taxing. A child who knows the numbers 1 through, how many are there?
I think it's 12.
1 through 12 would be able to put them in order even if they weren't able to read this big text.
Yeah,
and so it just works on a lot of levels.
It's a really fun one. Now, I said, maybe chop out the letter, but a number, maybe not the best idea. I don't know. But actually, why not? You could experiment. But actually, we have some suggestions for how to even go further with this activity. So we're gonna, for those of you who are in the community, have already given this lesson or are still playing with it, one of the things we often get asked about is, okay, how do I bring this to life beyond the initial thing? And the idea is that the great stories are a springboard for research. So what does that mean? So let's take our little book here.
So, yes, okay, so here is one way that you could engage with it. So let's see, can you find me the page in here where it's like there was light? And can you find this page about the galaxy?
Yeah, our Milky Way.
Yeah. This is our Milky Way, exactly. Yeah, and I'm going to get out. I brought my watercolors with me. I don't know if you knew that. These are what I use for my watercolors. I just use a little teacup with some water in it. And I've got, although it should be a teacup that you're not going to use for drinking up out of afterwards. This is an antique that I'm not going to use for actual drinking. And here's my little set of watercolors. Just going to lay this here. Got my watercolor paintbrush. Okay, great. So keep that with you. So let's say, okay, so here are the twinkling, here's the galaxy one, right?
Yeah, that's the Milky Way one.
Yeah. So you're going to just kind of sit here as my supportive adult.
Okay.
Or maybe, ideally we would be watercoloring together. So maybe David, if I had two brushes, David would be watercoloring the one about light, about the twinkling stars, and I might be watercoloring, get a little water and put that in there. I might be watercoloring our galaxy. And while I am, the child sitting here watercoloring, what could we do to make this experience interesting or kind of magical? What do you think?
Well, let's think.
Let's see, I'm going to put a little...
I guess I might start asking questions about it. Like, I see this looks like a spiral, and I wonder what else makes a spiral shape in our world, and like hurricanes and shells, things like that make spirally shapes.
Yeah.
And
so that's really cool that we have had some big hurricanes recently that look just like this, right?
Mm-hmm.
Let me get a little green. It's kind of a fun.
I'd be curious, like, I know this picture looks, it's little, but how big is it? I know it's big. How big is it? Like, if we were to draw the Earth on this, how tiny would it have to be? The answer is very, very, very tiny. Too tiny to see.
Okay, so we're doing art. We're having a conversation as we go. We're relaxed. Hopefully, ideally, I would have printed this on thicker paper, cardstock, ideally, because
it'll absorb that water better.
My paper is getting just a little bit squishy. And as we're kind of having conversations and we're painting and enjoying our time together, you also can be taking a look at your card. So this is the one about the Milky Way, and you could kind of just like use this for your discussions about things.
Yeah, I mean, I think in antiquity, or not even that long ago, and maybe in some parts of the world it would make sense, but for us here in North America, largely, why is it called the Milky Way? It's not intuitive. Like, it's because of all the light pollution, you don't actually know that it's a milky kind of swath in the sky. So to a child who's maybe never seen the Milky Way galaxy in any way, that might be something to research. Like, why would it be called the Milky Way? Like something to do with cows?
Can you see the Milky Way? Turns out you can, but only part of it.
That's right.
Right? Because we're in the middle of it. And I think we're about right. I looked it up. We're like about right here. I'm pretty sure. Not exactly on this furthest edge, but definitely not close to the center either. We're just like kind of in there.
Yeah, and how about this? How do we know that's what it looks like? Have we ever sent something far enough out into space that it could take a picture of the whole thing?
Good point.
We haven't.
No, we have not.
Yeah, so how would they know? How would a scientist know what the Milky Way looks like? Is it just a guess, or how would they know that?
This says, this is kind of moving on to the other discussion about stars. It says, many, many other stars shined brighter and brighter, and when they were at the very end of their life, they exploded, sending energy out into the darkness again. We could focus on this word explode. Can you think of other things that could explode? Have you ever seen an explosion?
Oh.
And you know, hopefully our children haven't seen a major explosion, but, you know, they could be talking about things that have exploded within their own realm. I'm thinking like maybe you had a campfire and one of the sticks caught fire and it kind of went pop, pop,
Like
right? Yeah.
Or they think about the metaphor of explosion. And, you know, so if you saw like Inside Out, the anger character has like an exploding head.
That's right.
Right? So so like he's exploding with anger. So that would be, now we're kind of getting into language study, grammar and language study. And we might start looking at kind of words that are descriptive words, like the word twinkling. That's an adjective. And, or descriptive, or words that or verbs, like in this case, exploded. What are some synonyms? So you could do synonyms. So instead of exploded, could it be popped? Could it be blew up? Could it be rushed out? So these all kind of then begin, especially for those in the lower elementary, and you're going to be in the word study more specifically. There's a lot of dissecting and parsing of the sentences that you could do here.
Yeah.
That's another option.
So a lot of, in the Montessori community, you want to flip us back around? Sure. If you were to take your Montessori training in lower elementary, you would pretty quickly discover that the great lessons aren't just meant to be told. They are to be used as, quote, a springboard for your research.
That's right.
Okay, for the individual child's research. And this would mean, like, in a classroom, children would be told these several great lessons, you know, the 5 core great lessons for sure. And then it would be up to them to kind of be intrigued by something. And then for the guide to help them go and find out more information about it and maybe do some research about it, maybe do an art project about it, maybe create a timeline of it, you know, just to kind of extend that learning on a personal level. Now, in traditional education thought processes, we tend to think that all of the children who have the same lesson will have the same
outcome or
experience, right? Like we even put this in writing. We say, you know, we make these long documents of standards, and we say, okay, and objectives, right? And I remember going through my teacher training and being told you should never, ever, ever, ever teach a lesson without an objective. Ever, 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 ever. You always should know have a very clear idea of what the children will know after this lesson, or what they will be able to blank, right?
Yeah.
To do. And we had to start our lessons with, you know, our objectives with that.
Yeah, after
this lesson, the child will be able to ... and we would have to fill in the blank, right? So this is actually really different from the way we design our lessons on purpose in our theme packs, we do call out, what your child is doing in the lesson. So for this lesson, it says, we're going to calling out, like, this speaks to reading and writing. There's a lot of reading in this lesson. So why? Because your child is practicing sequencing. They're building their understanding of the origin of the universe. They're learning to listen and follow along with the narrative. Like, these are things that will happen during the lesson.
The lesson is created to help foster these things.
Right. But your child will not become a better listener, or your child will not become an adept sequencer, or your child will not now know everything there is to know about the origin of the universe, or to know these specific things.
The goal is not to have them memorize
test them at the end of
the
this.
13 steps in the origin of the universe according to the cards. And then to test them on that. That is not the purpose.
That would be the traditional approach. I'm going to give this lesson, and then by the end, I'm going to assess and see if the children remembered it.
Yeah.
And so, as Montessorians, this is where we kind of take a leap of faith. That if we present something that's interesting and inspirational, then our children will absorb the bits that are relevant to them, that intrigue them.
Yeah, that's right.
And so as Montessori guides, one of our jobs is not just to present the lesson and expect an outcome out of it. It's to present the lesson and then observe and listen really carefully to what our children are saying, and to observe, what they linger on. So this has everything to do with, like, maybe you're looking at these sets of cards, and what they're really wanting to watercolor is the Milky Way, right? And that, just the noticing of that. Your child doesn't have to say, I want to research the Milky Way now. They don't have to say that. But you are observing, like, what are they gravitating to? What do their eyes light up as? Was it at the word light, or was it at the word explosion? Or, was it the idea of a Milky Way, and maybe they went to the refrigerator and they looked at the milk and they were, like, pondering this. That is what we do as Montessorians, is we use these lessons to help guide our children into their next step.
Yeah, so the extension is not just to print it and do it, but to use it as that springboard for research and noticing where the child is leading you, right? Follow the child through the exploration of these really captivating experiences, which have stood the test of time. We've been doing these great stories for a long, long time. They were really amazing. I can attest to that personally. From that, you will see the spark in the child. And then from there, you could do all sorts of stuff directly with the material, like looking for parts of speech or coloring or exploring further, or using it as an absolute springboard into something totally different.
Yes. All right. Well, that is actually all we have time for today, friends.
We had the full power hour today.
I know, it was the power hour and then some. It was so powerful.
So thank you for sticking with us. We hope you had a good time. If you'd like to know more about our work, please head over to childoftheredwoods.com. You can email us at hello@childoftheredwoods.com. And you also can sign up for our free trial and get into the community and see how that works, as well as having a lot of fun with The Biggest Boom and 9 other awesome lessons.
Yes. All right. Thanks so much, friends.
We will see you next week.
See you soon.
Bye.